fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Down Under Graphics and Murray Bridges Australian Sprint Car Series here at Limaland Motorsports Park, where we have got a pretty lively field of sprint cars here ready to rock and roll for the evening's heats and mains here tonight. Joining me in the comms box is Mr. Cam Dance himself, not in the car tonight, but giving us some expert advice up here on these 410 sprint cars. Cam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, not to worry. It's been a very, very interesting series so far. A lot of good racing and a lot of action. It's been really, really good to watch and commentate on. And tonight's probably not going to be too much different, especially on this quarter-mile speedway of Limaland Motorsports Park.
Yeah, well, like you said, the competition has been immense in this series, and we have seen nothing but great racing and great competition all the way through. And, you know, the times at the top of the sheet at the moment just show that in this 15-minute practice session. We've got Jock Goodyear and Brendan Hobson on a 10 seconds, .795, even with each other in first and second there, and Harry Stewart's only another 400ths of a second behind that. So this is, four thousandths of a second. So absolutely great competition throughout and great racing, great respect between these drivers as well, which is really, really important when you're racing so close and so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not actually a lot of in between it for pretty much the entire field that's here currently running in the practice session. It's only well, not even 0.4 of a second, so it just goes to show how quick everyone is and how close it actually is.
Well, that's it, and obviously we've got a really short little track here, but I firmly believe that in series like this, the more you race together, the closer your pace gets and the more used to racing with each other you get, which is why we're seeing such a great level of competition in this series and such a great level of respect, as I was saying earlier. But I think tonight we're in for a really, really great race. We've got roughly 18 drivers now. 17, Bob King is our admin for the night. So 17 drivers, that's a nice number there. We'll have a couple of heats, maybe a couple of heats there. Our mains. It's going to be a great little night of racing. Limaland is probably one of the shorter tracks that these cars will go to as well, so it's going to be short, sharp laps. They are going to absolutely fly by tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that's going to be the interesting bit is how the track forms over the course of the night. It's really going to be interesting, as we saw in the previous rounds that we've seen here, and also during the Pro Series. It was pretty much very, very slick, and you got to the point where everybody started to run the bottom, and then the high line sort of came into its own thing. So it's really going to be interesting to see how tonight goes. Not necessarily a large field, like you said, with only about 17 cars, but it's really going to be very, very close as per the times.
That's exactly it, and obviously track evolution is something that plays a major role in how these guys drive their sprint cars out there and exactly how they feel out the track. And we can even see in practice now different lines being taken, trying to see how high they can push the car before they lose that grip level, and again down low, the same thing. So one thing we have seen is, particularly during the A main at the end of the night, the drivers are starting to play around with different lines to get that slide job done, get some overtakes going on, and seeing if they can start to bring in the line that has been slower, make it work for them, and then get that pace advantage over everyone else a few laps early, which is really cool to see. And obviously on the broadcast, all of you at home can also see the way the track is evolving depending on where these cars have been driving for the whole night.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, currently you can see that on entry to turns 3 and 1, you're starting to get a bit of slick line up near the top of the racetrack, starting to slick off a little bit in the middle of the turns as well. So you're going to find guys will start to really put it on the knife edge, running right up against the wall, or possibly even trying a different line using a slider line, or running it right up against the tyres on the inside. It's really all about looking for that grip and really understanding where's quicker and where's going to be the better thing over a race distance.
Well, that's it. And obviously this track is going to change a lot as well as the night goes on. So, you know, we might have our first heat, and then we're going to have the second heat there, and the track's going to change across that second heat. So when we get to the mains, we could well see a completely different track for those people that were in the first heat, and they're going to have to readjust their driving style to make sure that they're on board with what's going on. And it can give those guys in the heat before an advantage, and also with pace as close as this, any sort of little advantage is so important. You know, these times haven't blown out any, like we're talking 0.3 separating 11 or 12 cars here, which is just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is that short warm-up before the feature where everybody gets to go and do some laps and get an eye out. But for those who've just run that heat, like you said, they do have that advantage of knowing how the track has evolved over the recent race and how long it's going to take before the track does this or that and that sort of stuff.
Exactly it. So we have about 3.5 minutes left until the end of this practice session before we head into qualifying. So hard to say who's got the pace here tonight. Everyone is so close, and it's really going to come down to who can hook their car up the best during these qualifying runs. Obviously, only 2 laps in this qualifying and 5 minutes to do them. So it's really important to nail them. We have seen the likes of Joel Berkeley previously having messed up his qualifying laps, and that makes your night a lot longer, particularly with a larger field as well. So nailing that qualifying run will be critical to making sure you're high up in the heats, high up in the main, and have a good night overall of racing.
Yeah, 100%, especially on such a short track like this. It's really, really important to get qualifying, and like you said, in those bigger fields, it really does pay off just because you've got that ease of not having to pass cars and worry about possibly ending up in an incident. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Joel did very, very well in the Pro Series when we came to Limaland both times, so it will be very interesting. He'll probably be the man to try and beat and one to watch with how well he did. So going to be someone to keep an eye on, but at the moment, it's really going to be about who's going to be on top, because Jock Goodyear is tied with Brenton Hobson, like we talked about earlier on times, and Jock's very, very good, but he hasn't really been around for too long in the dirt scene, having done a bit of real racing. So it'll be interesting to see what his return is like tonight.
Exactly it, and you know that just throws a spanner in the works, if you will, for these regular guys that we have around, and their process for these races. To have a name like that already at the top of the timesheets means that they've all got to rethink their strategies a little bit, rethink how they're going to approach tonight. And we do have a couple of pro guys in here that obviously know this track really well, and we have found that some of these pro guys, they don't like to show their true pace until they get into qualifying and into the race, and then we really start to see them getting the most out of their sprint cars, getting the most out of the race, and moving towards the front. One thing I have noticed is obviously there are these little tyres just around the insides of the turns here, which could create issues if you nick one of them and unsettle the car. So we've seen that sort of thing in other tracks where they basically have something that denotes the bottom of the track, don't go past there. Well, those tyres are it, and if these sprint cars hit it, they are under high loads through these corners. That could unsettle them quite a bit through this race and potentially cause some interesting incidents.
Yeah, for sure, and we've seen in the past those tyres on the inside have caused some very, very interesting incidents and also created some very big moments as well. I mean, I can remember back to probably what would have been the New Zealand midget title for the New Zealand sim racing guys, and Joel Berkeley hit that one of the inside tyres and nearly barrel rolled it, but managed to keep on going. So it's a bit of Russian roulette and trying to use those tyres to help you get around the corner, but also not unsettle the car too much and throw you into a spin.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. So it's going to be interesting. It's a millimeter perfect game, this one that we play. So these guys, we're seeing a few people really trying to find the limits out there in the final 20 seconds of practice. There are a couple of spins going on. Everyone trying to understand how far they can push their car before they head into qualifying. Which now with about 10 seconds left, we're looking at just about our final order. So Jock Goodyear and Brenton Hobson have stayed at the top there, and again, these times still staying very, very close there. Yet we're looking at a very interesting night of racing, I think, and different driving styles mean different lines being used, and that means different overtakes. We've seen great battles between yourself, Cam, and a few of the drivers out there as well, going back and forth over the course of a race, which is really what I'm excited for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really, really interesting as qualifying is now up, and we'll see who's going to get the fastest lap, that's for sure.
That's it. So we're waiting for our first cars to head out there and see what they can do for us. So this will be interesting. So 5 minutes here to do 2 laps. So remember that. We've got Jacob Penno's come out on circuit there. Some of these guys, some of the faster guys, will wait until the end of this session to actually come out on tracks. So we might not see the times really start to fall until a bit later on. But we do have a few drivers, starting to come around and set their first times. So we'll wait and see here. Interesting to see. The qualifying tends to be a little bit slower. 11.9 from Harry Stewart is our first time on the board at the moment. So now we're waiting. Danny Vassal's coming across the line here. 11.7 for Daniel Stevens up to the top there. 11.6 for James Robbie. So these times are starting to fall as more drivers come across the line.
Yeah, for sure. You can start to see the times really coming out, and really interesting to also see the different lines everybody's using. Some are running the bottom, some are running the top. And it's really interesting to see. Currently, Brayley Sanders just crosses the line, go to P2, and Vince Romeo, what can he do? He's going to cross the line and start his first.
So we'll see. Most of these drivers are being fairly conservative at the moment. Romeo goes right up the track there, gets a fairly decent exit and comes out there. And up to an 11.8 there, so he's gone up to 7th at the moment, which is roughly where his pace has been in the last few rounds. So he's usually around that midfield pace. So still waiting on some of the heavier hitters, the likes of Joel Berkeley, Jock Goodyear, and Brenton Hobson, Lewis Hewitt, and Brett Willer all to come out and set their laps. And Vince Romeo just went up to 3rd, so a good effort by him.
Yeah, Jock Goodyear not actually setting a valid time on his first lap, so coming through turns 3 and 4, he's going to cross the line, and this time he will go to pole straight away by pretty much 2/10. So really, really good lap by Jock there. Currently still a few yet to set times. Berkeley, James Rice, Brett Wheeler, Lewis Hewitt, and Brenton Hobson all yet to set a time. Brett Wheeler I can see is leading pit lane, so he's going to be one to watch, and so is Joel Berkeley. So about to see the big hitters come out to play and try their hand at setting the fastest lap. This Wheeler comes into turns 1 and 2, running right up against the wall, trying to get the maximum amount of grip that he can. Coming through turns 3 and 4, again, right up on that high side. So using the high side to his advantage, what's it going to be? It's going to be a 12-1, but it's going to be right down the bottom. So not quite the pace up at the top end of the racetrack that we might have anticipated, as he's using the middle of the racetrack this time by. What's it going to be? He's going to cross the line, go to P number 4. So not too bad, but like we saw, interesting lines being used there as Berkeley comes across the line for his first lap. And second lap, and does not improve, but goes straight to P3.
Now we're waiting on Brenton Hobson, who's done an 11.9 there and gone up to 13th place, so not quite where he'd want to be either. Lewis Hewitt is also out on track, so we'll wait and see what these guys do, because they're really what's going to settle this field for us. So Lewis has come across and he's gone up to 4th place with an 11.6. Right now, Jock Goodyear is the class of the field, but we'll wait and see what Hewitt manages to do as he crosses the line. Just coming out of turn 4 now. He goes across, improves a little bit just to jump his teammate and Joel Berkeley, so goes up to 3rd there. Brenton Hobson didn't improve, so he will remain where he is there in 13th position. 15th position, excuse me. He's dropped down there, so not quite where he'd want to be, but we have seen, unfortunately, Hobbo has not had the best qualifying efforts, but the races are really where he shines and comes back through the field and starts to show these dirt races what he's made of.
Yeah, for sure. Hobbo is not really one to do well in qualifying. It does tend to sit in 6th a lot, so we'll see what happens in this race as your qualifying order currently on screen. Jock, over or nearly 2/10 clear of pretty much second place, James Robbie, followed by Lewis Hewitt, Joel Berkeley, Brett Wheeler, Bailey Sanders, James Rice, and Vince Romo rounding out the top 8. So going to be some very interesting races and probably going to be some very stacked heats as well with the way that the qualifying order is looking.
Yeah, I dare say there's a good spread of I guess the drivers we would call our faster drivers here at the moment. So I feel like we're going to get some really great battling, and the times are a little bit more spread out at the top. But if you go down to Brett Wheeler, between Brett Wheeler and Jai McKenzie, that is 5th down to 13th. There is about a 10th and a half separating them. So the competition in that midfield is definitely alive in the timing, and Jock managed to put in a really good lap there, but it's still all to play for within that midfield. So I think we're going to see some really great racing here. And remember, our heats will be 10 laps, and the top 4 from each of those will go through. So we'll have our first heat lining up now, and it looks like we'll be up for 2 heats tonight to settle our field for the feature. So we will have in heat number 1, Jock Goodger in first, Lewis Hewitt in second, Brett Wheeler third, James Rice in fourth, Scott Butler fifth, John Schultz in sixth, Jai McKenzie seventh, and Hobbo in eighth. Danny Vassell rounding out this heat in ninth position.
I hazard a guess. It's probably going to be one of those top 5 who are going to be challenging for the win, I'd say.
Can you say which one?
Well, I'd be a bit biased in saying that it's going to be a TTR car, but it's, I don't know. It's really hard to tell because of how close it is. Like you said, in that midfield of qualifying, it was really, really tight. And it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen there in terms of who's going to finish where.
Well, that's exactly it. And, Jock has a really good qualifying time, but if you look at his practice time compared to other drivers in the heat, the other drivers are quite close. So, realistically, like Hobbo was the guy who matched Jock in practice. So, that race pace may be a little bit better for Hobbo, which means he could well work his way up from 8th position and try and challenge for this win, depending on how this all goes. So, that's what I absolutely love about this, is there's no guessing what's going to happen. It's always unscripted events that'll unfold in front of us here at these dirt races, because these guys, they go hell for leather and they go hard in these races, and that is absolutely great to see.
Yeah, for sure, and especially on these quarter-mile racetracks where you've got very little room to work with and everybody's just throwing everything they can at it to try and gain positions or pull away from someone behind them, and it gets very, very wild and exciting.
So now we're just waiting for the iRacing official pace truck out the front there to pull away and lead this field to a couple of formation laps and siding laps, and then we will get underway for this 10-lap race. At about 10 or 11 seconds a lap, this is going to absolutely fly by, so it's going to be some rapid commentary from Sir Cam Dance and myself here tonight, but nothing that we can't handle, I'm sure. But this little, like you've said, this quarter-mile track, this is a little crazier than some of the other tracks that we've had in the last few weeks, in that there's not much time to think, but in those little short chutes between the turns, you've really got to organise yourself, particularly understanding who's around you. We see often 3 or 4 wide coming through on the first and second laps. You really got to understand who's around you, where you are, and how you can carve your way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're doing all that sort of stuff, you also got to look for the racetrack and where there's grip and where there isn't as the pace truck is off. And we're underway. Great jump from Jock Goodyear to take the lead straight away. In fact, the top 3 all pulling away, but that's that middle pack that's gone really, really feisty.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Jock's got a great start out the front there. He's checked out a little bit there with his teammates. So now Wheeler and Rice are battling it out there. So Rice has actually gotten up there. Wheeler's around now. So that's really unfortunate for him, because he has actually got a lot of pace, but that puts James Rice up into 3rd place and John Schultz into 4th. Oh no! Contact between Rice and Hewitt. Oh, Rice has been collected again. So his engine is blown. That is his race over. Very unfortunate for him after getting up there. But we do have a good battle going between Hobson and Butler at the moment as they come down through into turn 3.
Yeah, Hobson running that high line, trying to make it work. It seems to be working not too bad for him. Manages to hold hold on to the position off Scott Butler for the time being, but Butler looks like he's got a solid run, going to try and run the bottom of the racetrack. Not quite going to get it done, and Hobson will hold on to that position.
Doing a good job, Hobbo. Obviously, he started in 8th, so now he's up to 3rd. But just behind him there, Brett Wheeler's trying to fight his way back through the pack. So he's got Danny Vassell up ahead of him here. And in the background there, he's also got Schultz and McKenzie. We've got someone on their roof in the background there as well. So it's all going on at the moment as we come on to lap 7 of this race. And now Brett Wheeler just tags the wall just a little bit there, puts him up high, loses a little bit of speed. He's trying to get around there, just not making it work.
Yeah, he did well to recover from hitting the wall. They're very easy to end up in that opening and end your race fairly quickly, so he's done well to recover that, but he's on a charge and he'll get that 4th position off of Danny Vassell. Great exit out of turn 4, so he'll start to try and reel in those leaders, but that's too late as Jock Goodyear and Lewis Hewitt have taken 1-2 finish for TTL Esports in the first heat. Brendan Hobson comes in 3rd, Brett Wheeler 4th with Danny Vassell shortly behind, John Schultz in 6th, 7th John McKenzie, and that is rounding out the field.
That was a bit of a crazy one. Yeah, those guys, obviously James Rice and Scott Butler, they're really unfortunate. Rice, through no fault of his own, ended up being negatively affected by that. So in the end, Jock Goodyear, Lewis Hewitt, and Brenton Hobson, our top 3, with Brett Wheeler taking that final transfer position. So now we will look at Heat 2 here, and Cam, I'll get you to run us through the qualifying.
So for the grid for Heat 2, we've got on the front row James Robbie and Joel Berkeley, followed by Bradley Saunders and Vince Romeo. Row 3 will be Daniel Stevens and Jason Nygaard, followed by Harry Stewart and Trent Gosley, and then running up the field will be Jacob Pino.
So again, another fairly competitive field here. You've got the likes of Joel Berkeley in there, Bradley Sanders, Vince Romeo, all guys who have been doing quite or very well in this series, and James Robbie as well, who has been improving as the series has been going on, which has been very good to see. So now, we put that first heat behind us and we look at the second heat and see where these guys will end up. So another 10 laps here as they come around to do their last sighting lap. It'll be very interesting to see how the jump, because we've seen that the person in first often gets a really great leap off the line in these sorts of races, and everyone else behind sort of has to fight to get back. So now coming around through turn 3, the iRacing pace truck will pull off now, getting ready to go again. James Robbie gets a good start there, comes up to cover Berkeley off as they come into turn 1. Not quite as good as Jock in the last heat. Oh no! Oh no, there's 4 cars involved in that. That is horrible.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. It looked like James Robbie just got a wee bit too loose. Berkeley had nowhere to go, and then Saunders and a number of others, I believe Trent Gosley and I think that was Daniel Stevens, was all involved in that. So really unfortunate for a number of them. But person to watch is Joel Berkeley. He's hunting down Vince Romeo like an absolute madman at the moment, but just behind Jacob Pino, and I believe that's Harry Stewart battling it out for the minor positions for the final podium spot.
Yeah, so this is important here. These guys, there's a bit of pride in this, and there's also being further up in the feature coming up. So you've really got to make this work and make those positions up. And Jacob Pino's done a half spin there. Oh, and into Bradley Sanders as well. So that's really not helping him. He was doing quite well up until then. But up the front now, we've got Berkeley. Like you said before, he's charging out at Vince Romeo, trying to catch him as we come across the line now. It'll be lap 7 of 10 here, and Berkeley is just reeling him in at the moment, taking that high line. Looks like he... Oh, he's hit the wall! Oh, no! And down to the low line there, he's going to try and get it going again, and he has, still maintaining second for the time being. How he managed to keep that going, I will never know.
I've got no idea either. He was very, very lucky to actually keep on going. I'm not sure if he's got a meat ball. He may possibly do, but that was incredible luck to not end up on his roof or having to DNF the race, because that was an absolutely almighty shunt. And now Harry Stewart's trying to go right around the outside of Berkeley, who's probably got a bit of damage, but is clearly able to continue on with 1 lap to go.
Yeah, he's struggling here. He's really trying to get it there. He's just lost that position to Stewart, but he's gonna limp it across the line here, and he'll take 3rd place in the end. So that was very close, very, very close for him. So he did well to keep that car going, but it looked like an absolute handful. But we'll have a look here Our top 4 from that race were Vince Romeo, Harry Stewart, Joel Berkeley, and Trent Gosley. So those gents will go through to the feature. And now we look at the B main here. So 15 laps here. And all 10 of our drivers participating in this heat will be going through to the feature as well. So this will just determine where they start in that feature.
Yeah, for sure. So on the first row, we've got Danny Vassell and Bradley Sanders, row 2, Joe McKenzie and Jacob Pino, row 3, John Schultz and James Robbie, row 4, Scott Butler and Daniel Stevens, row 5, James Rice and Jason Nygaard, and that is your B main.
So a few unlucky guys in here that were affected by incidents that weren't necessarily their fault, but that's okay. That's the nature of this racing. So this will be interesting to see them come back through. Guys like James Rice and Scott Butler who got caught up in incidents and taken out of the race. So expect them to probably be making some moves up the field there. But guys like Bradley Sanders as well and John Schultz, they have a good bit of pace. James Robbie as well, and they've just been caught out a little bit in their heats. So now we'll see where they can really end up qualifying. For this Consolation B main, and where they'll end up, and that qualifies them for the feature.
Yeah, for sure. It will be all about watching the bottom half of the field, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah. There are a couple of big names in there that could move their way up and make it work later in this 15-lap race. So it is slightly longer than our heat, so a little bit more time, but with 10 to 11 second laps, it'll still absolutely fly by for us. So they're coming across the line here for the final formation and sighting lap. So we'll see how these guys all go. A 10-car heat here at the moment, all getting ready to go as they're about to come into turn 3. So Danny Vassell will lead our field away here with Bradley Sanders in second, side by side now coming through turn 3 and 4. Danny Vassell waiting for starters' orders, and he's gone. Very equal start between Sanders and Vassell. Vassell will hold that low line, and Sanders will try to go around the outside here. Sanders not quite able to make it work here, so he's going the ultra high line, and many of the other cars are taking low to mid lines there.
Yeah, a lot of guys are seeing that the middle of the racetrack has quite a bit of grip, but Saunders really using the top end of the racetrack to use that cushion, and a bit of contact between himself, and I think that was someone, I believe that was Capino. So both of those cars, well, one car out of the field now, so Sanders is really going to have to work for it. But back to the front of the field, Danny Vassell is actually coming under pressure from John McKenzie at the moment, who's running that bottom of the racetrack really, really well.
This is the racing we were talking about, and John McKenzie on that low line just nicked one of those tyres, which ruined his mid-corner speed there just a little bit. So Vassell really trying to make that high line work, and the exit is working beautifully. And now McKenzie under assault from Butler there, as they're going to go 3 wide on 3 separate lines through turn 3 and 4 there. Butler and McKenzie nearly touching, very, very close there, and nearly contact between Butler and Vassell at the front there. It's all going on. Butler's going to try to carve through the middle here. Won't be able to make it work. Vassell's exit is just a bit better.
Yeah, that top line's got really, really good drive on the exit, but that middle line has got a lot of good drive through the middle of the corner. So Butler's really got it good through the middle, but then Vassell just gets the drive off the corner. So if he can just adjust his line, he should be able to hold on, although nearly side by side through turns 1 and 2. Butler's going to try slide job, not quite, but it's still going to be side by side for another lap. But looks like Vassell's just going to have the edge, although Butler's got a good run. He's going to take the lead from Danny Vassell, although Vassell's still running right up against the fence, just going to get the drive. Only a few laps to go, so Butler's really going to have to work for it here, as he's still side by side, battling it out for the lead of the race. There's nothing in it between these two.
And like you said, the exit on that high line is absolutely awesome, but that mid-corner speed is really working for Butler. So Butler's got to try and get under him here, and he nearly has there. The car's losing a little bit of speed on the exit. They're still side by side, so we've come across for lap 12, beginning of lap 12 now. Butler trying to get up in front of him, and has done so. Vassell will go down low, trying to take advantage of that line that Butler has been taking advantage of. Loses a lot of speed, so Butler is convincingly in the lead of this race at the moment.
Yeah, that low line seems to be really gone now. The bottom of the racetrack not all that quick at the moment unless you can really hook the car up. So Butler seems to be walking away with this, but at the moment it seems to be all on for those minor positions further back in the field between James Rice and Bradley Sanders, who's doing all right to make a comeback at the moment, but running out of laps to try and make his way through the field.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So Rice and Sanders here are battling it out hard. On that high line, Sanders was closing up on Rice, but now Rice trying to go around the outside here. Sanders on the inside of the 66, and Rice will get in front of the 66. Sanders just behind. So there you go. That is the B main done. So now our field, having finished this, Scott Butler is in first, Danny Vassell second, John Schultz third, James Rice in fourth, Daniel Stevens, 5th. Bradley Sanders, 6th. James Robbie, 7th. 8th is Jai McKenzie. 9th is Jacob Penno. And Jason Nygaard in 10th, who I believe didn't take the start. So that was a great little exchange there between the likes of Butler and Vassell, and it really highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of the different lines at this track and just in general for this dirt oval racing and sprint car racing, which is really interesting to see how through the middle of the corner that high line wasn't working so well for Vassell, but on exit that was exactly what he needed to punch ahead of Butler. But Butler managed to get his car high enough to take advantage of a good exit. So very, very interesting tactics at play here.
Yeah, for sure. And with this longer heat, the track's going to wear the track's going to really start to wear out quite a bit, and you'll probably start to see drivers actually have that bottom line really start to work. But that top line really strong at the moment with plenty of drive on the exit of the corner. But it's all about risk versus reward. How much are you willing to put a win on the line and pace on the line to run it right up against that wall and possibly end your night like we saw Joel Berkeley nearly have happen in his heat race, where he really was railing the wall and just managed to clip it enough to the point where he ended up pretty much barrel rolling down the track. So going to be really about risk versus reward, and whether you want to try and get some points or whether you want to try and go for that win. Again, there's still plenty on the line with the way the points are looking, and it's very, very close with the drop rounds included. So going to be all about choosing whether you want to be conservative or whether you want to be aggressive.
Well, that's exactly it. Risk versus reward is a great term to use to describe that. And, you know, we got to consider as well, Alex Bergeron hasn't turned up tonight to race, and he's our championship leader. So the fact that he hasn't turned up means that guys like Brett Wheeler, Joel Berkeley, Lewis Hewitt, his championship rivals, have a great chance to take a hold of this championship and start reeling him in. So very, very important night for these guys. And if they were to have anything happen like almost happened to Joel Berkeley in that heat, they would really be disadvantaging themselves going forwards in this championship. So a lot to play for, as you said, and it'll be really interesting to see how this heat pans out. And we've got to remember as well that it's a 40-lap heat we've got here, 40-lap A main, I should say. But if we do go under caution, the caution laps will not count towards the overall lap count. So we will get 40 laps of racing in here tonight for the A main.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing is whether you put less fuel in the tank than you actually need and run risk running out, or whether you do actually go safe and put enough fuel in or just enough to make it to the end, because the last thing you're going to want to do is run out of fuel and possibly risk some points. Although this track is very easy to fuel save on when you do run the bottom compared to railing it right up against the top of the fence where you're pretty much flat out the whole way around. So going to be really interesting to see whether anybody underfuels and possibly has to fuel save at the end, or whether everybody goes more on the conservative side.
That's exactly it. I said earlier you're an expert, and you really are. You know exactly what you're talking about. Makes a lot of sense. So now we have a full field lining up here tonight. So no one got eliminated as such, but everyone has now been jostled a little bit from their qualifying positions. So running through our 18 car field, we will have Jock Goodger starting from the number 1 position, Vince Romeo second, Lewis Hewitt third. In 4th is Harry Stewart, 5th Brenton Hobson, 6th Joel Berkeley, Brett Wheeler in 7th, Trent Gosley 8th, Scott Butler 9th, and starting out of 10th will be Danny Vassell.
Then we go back to 11th and 12th, which will be John Schultz and James Rice, followed by Daniel Stevens and Bradley Sanders, James Robbie rounding out the top 15, followed by Jai McKenzie, Jacob Penno rounding out the field, I believe.
Yes, yeah, that would be right. I think Jason Nygaard, he did disconnect, so he won't be taking part in this race. So a 17-car final here tonight, so definitely packed with talent. So all the guys up the front here, they're eager to get going. They're starting to rev up and try to get away from the front. as the official pace truck pulls away. So a bit of quite a jostled field actually on where we were after qualifying earlier on tonight. So this will be very interesting to see how some of the guys who qualified a bit better will fight their way through the field if they can, and those guys that have managed to work their way up the front through racing in the heats, how they'll handle themselves up there as well. So it's always good that's what's great about this format, is that it shakes things up a little bit and makes things a bit more interesting as well.
Yeah, for sure. And for someone like Bradley Sanders, who's starting quite a ways back in the field in 14th, you're probably going to want to try and make your way through the field as quickly as possible. If you're someone like, for example, Joel Berkeley, you're probably not going to be too stressed about making moves. You're just going to want to be patient and really make sure you finish the race as the pace track is off and we're underway.
So Jock Goodyear off to a great start there up the front there, but Romeo and Hewitt there sticking with him. So Hewitt's already cleared him, so Goodyear and Hewitt will be stuck together like they've got glue between their cars like they were in the heat. So they are off to a good start here, but we've got, oh my goodness, Hobbo and Romeo side by side, nearly making contact, but doing a very good job to avoid it there. And Hewitt's gone up the track trying to get that slide job done, but it will not work. Goodyear will keep that first position there. So the battle is well and truly on for this top 5 position here. And in the back as well, we've got 3 wide between James Rice and the guys around him. So all going on in these first few laps.
Yeah, it's very, very busy at the moment. Everybody sort of trying to find their feet on where the grip is and where they can possibly run to try and get the pace. Obviously, Jock Goodyear and Lewis Hurt really using that hole into the advantage, although Brenton Hobson is really using that middle alignment. Same as Joel Berkeley, they've got some decent pace as well, so not too far off the lead, but like you said, right in the middle of the pack or the further back, it's all going off. There's cars 3, 4 wide and 5 wide even down the front straight. I believe that was James Rice and a couple of others, so it's really, really heating up back there.
And this is great to see. This is very respectful, clean racing. Oh, 78 of John Schultz has nearly gone around, but he's kept it going, so I don't think we'll see a yellow for that, which is great to see. So he will keep going at the moment. But these guys, they race hard, but they race respectfully, and that's what we absolutely love to see. So, Scott Butler and Brett Wheeler are leading this mean little pack of drivers that include Gosley, Robbie, Sanders behind them as well. So this is absolutely great to see. And they're trying to sort themselves out, but when it's so busy, you must find it hard to find a position and stick to it and get into a rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. It's very, very tough, especially if you're wanting to change your line as well and you've got cars above you or below you. It's so difficult because you're trying to get down there, but you just can't. And if your car's not quite set up for the line that you're having to take, it can result in possibly having an incident or even not quite being as comfortable and falling back further than you really need to.
That's exactly it, and we've just had a car, I think it's Trent Gosley, he just hit the wall through turn 2 there, so managed to keep it going, but these guys, they're trying to test the limits of what these cars can do on that high line, and they're nearly breaking those limits. So very interesting to see. Gosley's in the wall again up there, riding up against it. Oh, and he's been rear-ended there, so that's going to be a pace period there. He was just coming across the track, and someone managed to get into him from behind there. Just trying to see what car that was, the 66, I believe it was. So really unfortunate, nothing much he could do there.
Yeah, real shame for Daniel Stevens there. Couldn't really do much, like I said, he had nowhere really to go, so just had to more or less plough straight into the side of Trent Gosley. So really, really unfortunate for that. Doesn't look like Stevens has got any damage by the looks of it. Might have a little bit of damage, but it doesn't appear to be too bad.
Yeah, which is good. We know these cars can be quite sensitive to even some small aero damage, as well as obviously mechanical damage such as steering and that sort of thing. You rely so much on being able to control and feel these cars that if you have steering damage, they become quite twitchy and uncontrollable, if you will. So we've actually had quite a few drivers there. Mackenzie, Stewart and Gosley have all disconnected from this race, so we won't be seeing them again during this race. Yeah,
for sure. Obviously, longer race and obviously a tighter race is what racetrack does make it a little bit more difficult and prone to there being accidents and damage and obviously retirees. So it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to finish where with the remaining field as the pace track has pulled off. And Jockey gets another great start. Joel Berkeley with a very solid restart against Lewis Hewitt, going straight down to the bottom. But Hewitt will get the drive off the corner, but it's back to that further in the pack. It's all going off.
Yeah, these guys, they're jostling for position at the moment. This is what we want to see. So that top four, they've managed to sort themselves out a bit, but behind that, you've got the likes of Scott Butler and Vince Romeo. They're fairly close, and Goodyear's going to go under Hewitt. Hewitt's really trying everything he can to get up there, but in the background, Hobbo isn't quite away from this battle with Butler and Romeo at the moment, and he's got to be careful because if he makes a mistake, someone's going to try and get up under him. And in the background as well, Bradley Sanders is trying to get into this, who we saw in the B main there, did not have a great time. So, you know, these guys that were right at the back, they're fighting their way back through, which is great to see. Romeo gets a slight touch there. They'll keep going amazingly, and no safety period. That's great.
Yeah, really good to see Romeo get straightened back up. But like I said, Sanders has made an absolutely amazing comeback. He's come from 14th on the grid to 6th at the moment, so great drive through the field there for him, but we'll see what the rest of the field can do.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. These front guys, they're fairly well sorted, but it's this mid-pack like we've been talking about that where the real battles are happening at the moment. So Vince Romeo and Brett Wheeler side by side, and we're watching now coming into turn 3 here. Romeo down low, Wheeler's up high, and another couple of cars. Oh, there's been contact there. Will they keep going? Nope, that's a big incident there. Big incident. One car did a barrel roll. Wow. There's some crazy stuff you get to see here.
Yes, indeed. It's quite the gymnastics feat when you tend to see cars barrel rolling in sprint cars, especially when they go end over end. Sometimes so. Really been unfortunate. I believe that was Daniel Stevens and James Robbie involved, so not the greatest run for those two at the moment. Looks like Stevens will have to retire the car with probably quite a bit of damage, but Robbie keeps on going, might have a little bit of damage as well.
Yeah, well, these guys that choose to deal with the damage, they're doing quite a good job because, as I was saying earlier, you know, damage isn't easy to deal with on these cars. But so far, I think we've kept everyone in. Even Daniel Stevens is in the pits there after his incident. So most other drivers, they have stuck around and they're trying to make their cars work for the rest of this race.
Yeah, for sure. It's starting to get very slick, as you can see on the racetrack. It's pretty much very limited as to where you can run and have grip, but Pace Truck is back in. Jock Goodyear with another great start, and Berkeley following behind, but Lewis Hewitt and Brenton Hobbo getting a really good restart, and he'll actually try and steal the position from Lewis Hewitt. They're going to go side by side, just behind them, side by side between Sanders and Butler. So battle going on for just inside the top 5, all going off. They're still side by side, 2 by 2. So now Jock Goodyear is going to try and go for the leaders. Now Berkeley's got some good pace. Going to be all on between the 3 TTL cars and 1 SSR car. So it's all going off at the moment. A bit of bragging rights as far as team goes, but it's still great as Goodyear gets a very good run off the turn 2, but now he's going to run the top, and Berkeley's going to try and throw a slider up into turn 1. He's going to get the position, but again, Goodyear will get the run off the corner. So slider line not quite working for Berkeley, but Goodyear's got some very good pace. Now Hobson getting involved in this. This is a 4-car train for the lead of the race. Berkeley throws another slide job on Goodyear, and Goodyear's not quite going to get the run off the corner, but now Hewitt's going to throw a massive slider on both of them and try and hold on to it, but he'll have to settle for the third. It's nearly 3 wide, and now Hobson getting involved in this. So it really is a 4-car train. Hobson nearly in contact between himself and Goodyear, and Lewis Hewitt is around.
Wow, that was some intense battling there for that top 4. You know, any of those guys could have taken that lead, and Berkeley just got it, but unfortunately for Hewitt there, he just got spun around. So, yeah, very, very great battling there, and what we come to see here. So, what was really interesting was Hewitt's big slide job up the track in turn 3 and 4 actually held up Jock Goodyear enough to let Berkeley by. So all of these guys are teammates, but they're all working against each other in the way they're racing and trying to slide job each other, and that let Hobbo come into it. And I think if we hadn't seen that pace truck when we did, Hobbo probably would have managed to throw a move or two himself.
Yeah, for sure. Hobbo's really got some surprisingly good pace here tonight, which is really, really good to see, seeing as he didn't actually do too badly in qualifying. So clearly the qualifying pace is carried over into the feature when the track is really slickened off like it has at the moment. There's not too many laps to go, just under 15 laps to go. So we're going to be having a very short sprint, hopefully green the rest of the way as the pace truck pulls it off again. Joel Berkeley is your leader, and we are green once again. Great start from Berkeley.
Yeah, well done. He's out of there. He's actually gotten about the best start we've seen all night there. So he will try and run away at the moment. But Hobbo's going to try and go up and under Jock Goodyear here, take advantage of this early restart. So this is going to be similar to the battle we saw with Goodyear and Berkeley, I believe. But right now, that low line, you can throw a slide job as much as you want, but that high line's just got the acceleration out of the corners to nullify any move.
Yeah, that cushion's really starting to build up now, and it'll have some massive grip and drive. So a lot of guys will be trying to run that to try and get some pace, but at the moment there's only 10 laps to go, so drivers are starting to run out of laps. Hobson's started to fall away a little bit from Jock Goodyear and Joel Berkeley, but Bradley Sanders right behind him in fourth. He's made up 10 places from where he started, so doing a great job. He's trying to drive it underneath Hobson, but not quite able to get it done. He'll try again, but they're going to stick side by side. Sanders going right down to the bottom, but not able to get the drive.
Yeah, Sanders has done a brilliant job after the night he's had to be in fourth position, 10 up on where he started. That's a mammoth effort, if you will, particularly in the class of field we've got here. And looking back in the field a bit, actually, we've got Hewitt, who is trying to carve his way back through. He's taking that high line there to try and get around the likes of James Robbie. James Robbie also up 10 on where he started, so a great effort from him too. But Hewitt, after that spin, he's got some time and positions to make up, so he's going to try and go around the outside here of James Robbie. Not quite making it work. Will he get it done? Maybe through turn 3 and 4, and we've got another caution period here.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Lewis there to have that caution come in, and I believe that was Scott Butler, who ended up in the wall on the exit of turn 2, so just caught the wall and that was it. It was up and over he went, but Hewitt's been doing the fastest lap after lap, well, not quite the fastest lap of the race, but he's been the fastest on track lap after lap for pretty much the past run, so he's really got some massive pace, and if he can get some more green flag laps, he should be able to get back inside that top 3, and he's not too far behind Sanders and Hobson now with this caution period. So he's got pretty much the speed that he needs. He's just going to need a bit of room to work with to try and get past these two.
That's it. So we're going to have about 5 or 6 laps. 5 to go. We've just been told by our director, Mr. Jay Kennedy, when we go racing next time round. So we're talking 50 to 60 seconds here for Hewitt to make his mark. So pace truck is in, and we are green again here. So Berkeley, great start there. Goodyear is under attack by Hobson. Last ditch attempt. Sanders is in there too. They're about to go 3 wide down the back chute here. Hewitt would be licking his lips at the opportunity that this presents to him. All those TTL guys go high line. Hobbo blocks the high line a little bit there. Sanders on the low line. You've got Goodyear on the high line. And Hobbo smack bang in the middle of the sandwich. He's gotten through to second as well. This is some great driving from him at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to drive it straight around the outside of both of them to take, I believe, second. He's just going to edge Hobson out of turn 2. Hewitt just clipping the walls, though. Still pretty much the quickest that he can be at the moment. Goodyear's not quite overdone with yet. It's 2 to go. There's very limited running left. Goodyear's going to have the drive out of turn 2, hold on to that position. Hewitt's going to go side by side with Sanders, go round the outside, and he'll get the position, but now the white flag is in the air. Is he going to be able to get Hobson? That is the question. He's got some massive pace. He's got a good run at turn 2. Coming across the line, though, is going to be Joel Berkeley, followed by Jock Goodyear. Lewis Hewitt is just going to strengthen Hobson for third by barely anything. The gap was less than a tenth of a second, about 1,000th, I believe. So really, really close racing between those two.
That was awesome to see. Hewitt charging through then. You could see those TTL guys, the setup they're running was definitely made for that high line. The way they were trying to hug the top there. And for Hewitt, it worked beautifully because all he needed was that extra bit of acceleration and push in speed to get past Hobbo, and he managed to do it. So that was a great run by him. Berkeley did very well. He came up from 6th position to 1st there. Goodyear in 2nd, having been fast all night, and then obviously their teammate Hewitt in 3rd. Then we'll run through the rest of the order here for you. So Hobbo is in 4th. 5th was Bradley Sanders after a very strong performance there, coming up 9 positions. Sixth was James Robbie, again up 9 positions there. Brett Wheeler, 7th. John Schultz in 8th. James Rice, 9th. Scott Butler, he's 10th, but he begins our DNFs here. So Scott Butler, Vince Romeo, Danny Vassell, Daniel Stevens, Trent Gosley, Harry Stewart, and Jai McKenzie are all of our DNFs. A few casualties, unfortunately, from tonight's racing.
Yes, it's a little bit unfortunate to have that many DNFs, but that does happen sometimes. Obviously, very, very close racing, very close and tight track as well. So, does happen sometimes, but it'll be interesting to see how next week goes, that's for sure.
That's exactly it. So we are going to bring in a couple of drivers for interviews. Our top 3 we will bring in. So firstly, we'll have Joel Berkeley coming into the box at the moment, who was our race winner for tonight. G'day, Joel. Congratulations on the win, mate. How's the car feeling out there? You had a bit of a moment there back in the heats.
Oh, yeah, just a typical mistake from me in the heat, standing on it a little bit, but come feature time, well, I guess, yeah, we went pretty good, I guess.
And you TTL boys, you work together and you stay together. Did you have some sort of game plan going in there? Obviously, 3 of you right up the front. Was there some sort of game plan, or was it just go at it and see what happens?
Go at it and see what happens. If we wreck each other, we wreck each other, pretty much was the way to go.
That's right. I mean, Lewis came pretty close to absolutely blocking you guys off. You guys were throwing slide jobs left, right, and center. And do you guys really enjoy racing each other hard on track like that in events like this?
Yeah, always good to race with people clean and all that. Like, it's always good to race with teammates. Jock, Hollow, they're all good to race clean with. And yeah, it was fun to race them 3 and put on a show, hopefully, for everyone watching.
You definitely put on a show for us, and you'll be at Kokomo in a few weeks' time, will you?
Yeah, we hope to make Kokomo next week. Nothing goes wrong, we'll be there. But yeah, it should be all systems go to be there. Another strong track for myself, but no, me, I'll probably stand on it and make my night difficult.
That's right. You made it a bit difficult tonight, and you still came out with that with the gold medal. So obviously, you're doing something right when it comes to the finals. So, were there any sponsors or anything you wanted to thank?
Yeah, massive thanks to the guys at TTL Esports, Star Designs, Down to Graphics, Simworks, you guys for broadcasting, and Bob, BK Events for making this event, put on a good series.
Beautiful. Well, thanks again, Joel, and congrats on the win, mate. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Kokomo.
You will indeed.
Well, Cam, that was an exciting night of racing. We only had the few heats. Some bigger fields obviously lead to a bigger lot of racing, but tonight still definitely threw some great, exciting racing at us. What were your highlights for the night?
I mean, like I said, large fields, they do produce some good racing, but these smaller fields, they also do produce some really, really good racing. So, yeah, that feature was just absolutely awesome. I mean, the drive from Bradley Sanders was awesome, and also the comeback from Lewis to end up just getting Hobson in the F3rd was really, really good to make it a TTR 1-2-3. So, yeah, going to be really interesting to see how Kokomo goes in 2 weeks' time and what sort of racing we can see there. It's probably, I'm pretty sure it's the shortest track we go to on the schedule, so going to be even tighter and probably even closer than we saw tonight here at Limaland.
Well, if tonight's anything to go by, we're in for a special treat when we get to Kokomo in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll wrap it up here from us at SimSpeed on the iRacing Esports Network. Just quickly before you go, stay tuned for on Friday. We will have the Geodesic GoPro racing series on the iRacing Esports Network. And then on Sunday evening, the V8 Supercars Online Premiere series will also be on the iRacing Esports Network. So stay tuned, as well as all the other broadcasts that we get to see on this awesome network. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks Cam for joining me in the comms box tonight.
No worries. It's a pleasure to get into the comms box and do a bit of watch a bit of dirt racing, and yeah, hopefully the rest of the week for the iRacing Esports Network is something to match up against.
Thanks everybody for tuning in on the iRacing Esports Network. This has been the Murray Bridges and Down Under Graphics Australian Sprint Car Series on the iRacing Esports Network with SimSpeed.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!